Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Groovy English. I'm Olivia, and today I want to spend some time with you exploring a topic that feels very close to my heart, the joy of simple things. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes life feels so complicated, doesn't it? Our schedules get packed, our minds feel busy, and the world around us seems to demand more and more every day. But then, every so often, something small, something ordinary, makes us stop in our tracks. It makes us smile, breathe a little deeper, and remember that not everything we need comes from chasing big achievements or dramatic moments. Sometimes, the things that bring us the most peace, the most happiness, are right in front of us, hiding in plain sight. Let me start with a question. When was the last time you felt truly happy about something very small? Maybe it was the first sip of your morning coffee or tea. Maybe it was the sound of birds outside your window. Maybe it was just slipping into bed with fresh, clean sheets. These things are tiny, almost invisible compared to the grand events of our lives. But isn't it strange how they can sometimes carry more weight than a promotion, a fancy trip, or an expensive gift? I think it's because simple joys are pure. They're free of expectation, free of pressure. They just exist, and they meet us exactly where we are. One of the simple things that always makes me happy is walking outside in the early morning. There's something about the air at that time. It feels fresher, almost softer. The streets are quiet, the world hasn't fully woken up yet, and it feels like you've borrowed a secret moment from time itself. I think these little walks remind me that no matter how complicated life gets, the earth keeps moving in its quiet rhythm. The sun rises, the air cools overnight, and then everything begins again. And when I notice these things, it feels like a little reset button for my mind. It's like the world is whispering, "Slow down, everything is okay." And it doesn't even have to be a walk. Sometimes, it's the joy of hearing someone's laughter. You know the kind of laugh I'm talking about, those uncontrollable giggles that spread from one person to another. You don't even have to know what's funny, you just hear it, and suddenly you're smiling too. Laughter is one of the most universal simple joys we share as humans. It doesn't matter what language you speak, where you come from, or what kind of day you're having. When someone laughs with their whole body, with their whole soul, it touches you. It's so ordinary, but so extraordinary at the same time. There's also something about food that brings us joy in the simplest way. And I'm not talking about a fancy restaurant meal. I mean the comfort of something familiar, something homemade, maybe even something you grew up with. For me, there's a dish that instantly makes me feel at home, even if I'm far away. The taste connects me to my childhood, to my family, to moments that shaped who I am. Isn't that incredible? A single bite can transport us back in time, like opening a door to memory. Food is more than fuel. It's a story we carry in our mouths. But what fascinates me most is that these joys often hide in moments we almost forget to notice. Think about the smell of rain on the ground after a long, hot day. Or the warmth of sunlight streaming through the window in winter. Or that tiny spark of happiness when your favorite song plays unexpectedly on the radio. None of these require money, effort, or planning. They just happen, and we only need to be present enough to notice them. And yet, because we're often too distracted, we sometimes let them slip away without appreciating them. I think that's why mindfulness has become such a big word in our world today. But honestly, I don't even like to call it a practice. It's more like remembering to pay attention. When you take a moment to notice the simple things, you realize how rich life already is. Imagine waking up tomorrow and paying attention just to the first 5 minutes of your day. The feeling of your blanket, the sound of your alarm, the taste of your breakfast, the light coming through the window. When you see these things as gifts instead of just background noise, your whole perspective changes. When I think about the joy of simple things, I can't help but notice how many of them live in nature. A walk through the park, the sound of leaves crunching under your feet in autumn, or the sight of cherry blossoms blooming in spring. These are not events that demand our money or our status. They are gifts that nature gives us freely, as long as we slow down enough to look. I think about how, in the middle of a busy week, just 5 minutes under a tree or near a body of water can calm my entire nervous system. It's almost like nature holds a secret medicine for the soul, hidden in plain sight. There's also something deeply comforting about the rhythm of the seasons. Even if life feels uncertain, I know winter will turn to spring, spring to summer, summer to autumn, and back again. This cycle is one of life's greatest simple assurances. Change is constant, and renewal always follows rest. When I watch the first snow fall or hear the first birdsong after a long winter, I'm reminded that hope is built into the very fabric of our world. These seasonal shifts carry joy because they remind us that endings are never permanent. They're just new beginnings in disguise. One of the joys I cherish most is light itself. Think about it, the golden glow of a sunset, the way morning sunlight filters through curtains, or the dancing sparkle of reflections on water. We rarely stop to consider how miraculous light really is. Without it, we couldn't see colors, couldn't notice beauty in the same way. For me, light always feels like a quiet reminder that, even in darkness, brightness eventually returns. And it doesn't need words, it just shows up every day faithfully. Water brings a different kind of simple joy. Have you ever noticed how watching waves crash against the shore can instantly put you in a meditative state? Or how the sound of rain tapping against the window somehow makes you feel safe and cozy indoors? Even a glass of cold water after exercise can taste better than the fanciest cocktail. Water reminds us that life doesn't need to be complicated to be fulfilling. It nourishes us, cleanses us, and comforts us with its simple presence. Speaking of comfort, there's a joy in ordinary rituals we do every single day. For me, making tea is one of those moments. Boiling the water, watching steam rise, breathing in the aroma before the first sip, it feels grounding. I'm not just drinking tea, I'm connecting with a moment of calm. Rituals like this, brushing your hair slowly, lighting a candle, tidying a room, are small but powerful. They give structure to our days and remind us that meaning can live in repetition, not only in novelty. Music is another joy that seems simple but carries endless depth. Sometimes it's a song you've heard 100 times, and then suddenly, one day, it hits you differently. Maybe it matches your mood, or maybe it unlocks a memory you'd forgotten. I often think about how extraordinary it is that sound waves can travel through the air, reach our ears, and stir up emotions so intense they can move us to tears. A guitar chord, a piano note, or even someone humming in the kitchen can bring joy in ways words can't always explain. And while we're on the subject of sound, silence is just as valuable. The world is full of noise, traffic, notifications, voices, but when you find a pocket of true silence, it's like discovering a hidden treasure. Silence allows your thoughts to settle, your heart to slow down. For me, sitting in silence isn't empty, it's full of presence. It's the space where I can hear myself clearly again. The joy of silence is often underestimated, but once you experience it, you realize how much richness it holds. Another simple joy is warmth. Not metaphorical warmth, but literal warmth. Wrapping yourself in a blanket on a cold night, holding a hot mug between your hands, or feeling the sun on your skin after being indoors all day. Warmth is one of the most primal comforts we know. It tells our bodies we're safe, we're cared for, we're alive. And yet it's something we often forget to be grateful for until it's missing. I also find joy in scents. Think about it. The smell of fresh bread baking, the sharpness of citrus when peeling an orange, or the earthy aroma after rain. Our sense of smell is directly linked to memory, which is why one simple whiff can take us back years, to people we've loved or places we've visited. For me, certain scents carry entire stories. The smell of pine trees brings me back to childhood holidays. The smell of sunscreen reminds me of summers by the sea. Scents are invisible but powerful. They add color to life we can't even see. Textures, too, can bring joy. Running your fingers across soft fabric, flipping the pages of a new book, or walking barefoot on grass, all of these are tactile experiences that root us in the present moment. We don't often talk about textures because they seem ordinary, but they create sensory anchors in our lives. I sometimes think of joy as multidimensional. It's not just what we see or hear, but also what we touch. That's why a hug, with its warmth and softness, can sometimes mean more than 1,000 words. Then there's the joy of discovery. Not the kind of discovery where you find a new planet or invent something groundbreaking, but the everyday discovery of something small. A new cafe around the corner, a flower you've never noticed before, or a fact that makes you see the world differently. These small discoveries remind us that wonder isn't reserved for children. We can carry curiosity with us into every stage of life, and when we do, even the ordinary feels extraordinary. One of the simplest joys I know is laughter shared with someone you care about. Laughter connects us in a way few other things can. It dissolves tension, heals misunderstandings, and creates memories we carry for years. I sometimes think about how, when I look back on moments with friends, it's not the grand events I remember most, but the times we laughed so hard our stomachs hurt. Laughter has no cost, no requirements, just presence, connection, and a willingness to let go. Pets are another source of uncomplicated joy. If you've ever had a dog wagging its tail when you come home, or a cat curling up on your lap, you know how grounding animals can be. They don't care about your job title, your bank account, or your mistakes. They simply greet you with love, with playfulness, with presence. Watching a dog chase its tail or a bird splash in water reminds us that joy doesn't have to be logical. Sometimes it's simply about being alive in the moment. Children bring a similar kind of joy. Their laughter, their questions, their endless curiosity, all of it feels like a reminder of the innocence we once had. I love watching how children find magic in things adults often overlook. A cardboard box becomes a spaceship, a puddle becomes an ocean, a stick becomes a sword. Their joy is contagious, and being around it invites us to see the world through fresh eyes again. And then there's the joy of words. As someone who loves language, I find it fascinating that certain words can feel beautiful even before you think about their meaning. Words like serendipity, harmony, or lullaby carry music in them. Language gives us the power to express, to connect, to imagine. Reading a poem, hearing a story, or even listening to someone speak with passion, all of these moments remind me that words are more than tools. They're art in their simplest form. Books, too, hold a special kind of simple joy. Opening a book feels like opening a door to another world, and yet all it takes is ink on paper. A book doesn't need to be long or famous to bring joy. Sometimes it's just a sentence that speaks to you at the right time, that makes you feel seen or understood. In a world full of noise, books invite us into quiet conversations that stretch across time and space. Food deserves another mention here, but this time not as comfort, but as connection. Cooking with others, sharing a meal, or even exchanging recipes brings people closer in ways words sometimes can't. Food is universal. Every culture has its flavors, its spices, its traditions. When we sit together to eat, we're not just sharing nutrition. We're sharing stories, identities, and care. That's a simple joy that transcends borders. The joy of learning is another one. Not formal learning with exams and grades, but the everyday joy of learning something new, a phrase in another language, how to fix something at home, or even how to whistle for the first time. Learning reminds us we're always growing, always expanding, no matter our age. That spark of aha when you finally get something, that's joy in its purest, simplest form. Sleep is also a joy that many of us overlook. I know it sounds funny to call sleep a joy, but think about it. The relief of lying down after a long day, the softness of pillows, the way your body relaxes into rest. And then there are those rare mornings when you wake up naturally, without an alarm, feeling refreshed. Sleep is something we all need, but when we experience it deeply, it becomes one of life's most healing gifts. Technology, though often overwhelming, can also bring simple joys. A video call with a loved one across the world, a photo that captures a memory, or even a song streaming instantly when you crave it. Of course, technology comes with challenges, but at its core, it offers connection and convenience that can brighten ordinary moments. A message from a friend, arriving just when you needed it, can lift your spirits for the whole day. Sometimes, one of the simplest joys is just watching the world go by. Sitting on a bench in a park or even near a window at home, you start to notice the way people move, how children chase each other, how strangers smile politely as they pass. Life unfolds without your effort, like a play you've been invited to watch. This kind of still observation is so rare in our busy lives, but when you allow yourself the luxury of doing nothing, You realize that doing nothing is actually doing something. It's practicing presence. There's also joy in small conversations with strangers. Think about the last time you exchanged a kind word with someone you didn't know, a cashier who wished you a good day, a neighbor who commented on the weather, or a person who held the door open for you. These moments are fleeting, but they brighten our day in surprising ways. Human connection doesn't always require deep conversations or lifelong friendships. Sometimes a smile is enough. I often think about the joy of anticipation. Waiting for something can be frustrating, but it can also be sweet. The night before your birthday, the days leading up to a trip, or even the moment before you take a bite of your favorite dessert, the waiting is part of the joy. Anticipation gives us something to look forward to, and sometimes the excitement is as delightful as the event itself. Another overlooked joy is remembering. Memory is such a curious thing. It allows us to relive experiences long after they've passed. Looking through old photographs, hearing a song from your teenage years, or rereading a childhood book can unlock feelings you thought you'd forgotten. Nostalgia can be bittersweet, but it's still joy. It's joy wrapped in time, reminding us of the richness of the life we've already lived. Sleepy afternoons also carry their own magic. There's something beautiful about that quiet hour when the sun is low, the air is heavy, and the world seems to slow down. Taking a nap, sipping tea, or simply sitting in the stillness of the afternoon light feels indulgent, but also grounding. These small pauses remind us that rest is not laziness, it's nourishment. Even chores can bring joy when you look at them differently. Washing dishes, folding laundry, or sweeping the floor can be meditative if you approach them with presence. The warm water on your hands, the smell of clean fabric, the sound of a broom on the floor, these are small but steady reminders that life is happening in the now. Turning chores into rituals transforms them from burdens into opportunities for calm. Joy also lives in the rhythm of language. Listening to someone speak passionately in a language you don't even understand can still be moving. The melody of words, the cadence of sentences, the pauses and emphases, all of it carries emotion beyond meaning. This is why music and poetry travel across borders. Sound itself is a gift, and when we listen deeply, we discover joy in voices themselves. I've found great joy in journaling. Putting pen to paper, writing down thoughts without judgment, and letting feelings flow. It's a private conversation with yourself. It doesn't require skill or talent, just honesty. Journaling creates space to process emotions, celebrate victories, and reflect on growth. Years later, rereading those words becomes a time capsule, a window into who you once were. That's a simple but profound joy. There's joy in watching the night sky. Looking up at the stars reminds us how small we are and how vast the universe is. The moon changes every night, offering a different view, a new rhythm. Shooting stars, constellations, or even just the clear side of the Milky Way make us feel connected to something larger than ourselves. It's a joy that's both humbling and awe-inspiring. Rain deserves a chapter of its own. Beyond its sound and smell, rain has a way of making everything feel softer. Streets shine, colors deepen, and the air cools. There's joy in walking under an umbrella, listening to raindrops above your head, or simply curling up indoors while rain taps at the windows. Rain gives us permission to slow down, to stay inside, to be cozy. Cooking is another activity full of simple joys. Chopping vegetables, hearing the sizzle of oil, tasting as you go, cooking engages all five senses. It's not just about feeding yourself, but about creating something with your own hands. And when you cook for others, the joy multiplies. Sharing food is one of humanity's oldest expressions of care and community. There's joy in learning to say no. As simple as it sounds, choosing not to do something that drains you can be incredibly freeing. It's a joy that comes from protecting your energy, from honoring your own needs. Sometimes, joy isn't about adding more to life, but about removing what doesn't serve you. That clarity, that boundary, is its own form of peace. The joy of movement is one I return to often. Stretching, dancing, or simply walking, it doesn't matter if you're skilled or unskilled. Movement connects you to your body, reminding you that it's alive, capable, resilient. Dancing in your kitchen to a favorite song is one of the most uncomplicated, universal joys in the world. No stage, no audience, just freedom. There's also joy in color. The richness of a red flower, the calmness of a blue sky, or the cheerfulness of yellow walls, colors affect our moods in subtle ways. Imagine a world without color. It would feel incomplete. Colors don't need explanation. They simply exist, painting our emotions as we move through the day. I can't forget the joy of kindness. Small acts, someone letting you merge into traffic, a friend sending you a thoughtful message, a stranger holding the elevator, carry enormous weight. Kindness proves that even in a world full of challenges, humanity is alive and well. Both giving and receiving kindness create ripples of joy that extend far beyond the moment itself. Solitude holds its own joy too. Spending time alone doesn't have to mean loneliness. It can mean space to think, to dream, to recharge. Sitting quietly with yourself, without distractions, can feel uncomfortable at first. But eventually, it transforms into a deep joy of self-discovery and acceptance. Solitude teaches us to be our own friend. There's joy in generosity. Giving a gift, even something tiny, can be more joyful than receiving. Offering your time, your energy, or simply your attention to someone else makes life richer. Generosity doesn't have to be grand. It can be listening patiently, helping a neighbor, or sharing a meal. Joy multiplies when we give it away. The joy of finishing something deserves mention. Whether it's completing a book, finishing a puzzle, or simply ticking off the last task on your to-do list, closure feels satisfying. It's proof that effort leads somewhere, that progress is possible. These small completions give us confidence for the bigger journeys in life. And then there's the joy of beginnings. Starting a new notebook, opening a fresh jar of paint, meeting someone for the first time, all beginnings carry hope. They whisper of potential, of stories yet to unfold. Even if the future is uncertain, the start itself is a celebration. Sleepy mornings bring their own kind of joy. Staying under the covers just a little longer, feeling the warmth of the bed, and knowing the world can wait a few minutes more, that's joy in its most tender form. It's like giving yourself permission to be human, to rest, to savor. I love the joy of listening. Not just hearing, but truly listening to someone. When you give someone your full attention, you honor them. And when someone listens to you deeply, you feel seen and understood. That exchange is priceless, and it doesn't require anything more than presence. There's also joy in play. Adults often forget to play, but play isn't just for children. Board games with friends, silly jokes, spontaneous adventures, all of these moments bring out laughter and lightness. Play reconnects us with the child inside us, reminding us that life doesn't have to be serious all the time. The joy of gratitude is simple but transformative. Writing down 3 things you're thankful for, or just whispering thanks in your mind, changes your perspective instantly. Gratitude shifts focus from what's missing to what's present. And once you notice the abundance around you, joy becomes unavoidable. Travel is full of small joys beyond sightseeing. The taste of street food, the rhythm of a different language, the smell of spices in a market, all of these small details create joy far richer than just checking landmarks off a list. Travel teaches us that joy often lives in the ordinary corners of unfamiliar places. There's joy in touch. Holding someone's hand, petting an animal, or even pressing your palms together in prayer or meditation. All of these remind us that touch is a language of its own. It speaks directly to the heart, bypassing words altogether. Joy can also be found in learning patience. Waiting for bread to rise, for paint to dry, or for seeds to grow teaches us to slow down. Patience isn't always easy, but it's rewarding. The moment you finally taste the bread, see the painting complete, or watch a plant sprout, it's joy multiplied by time. The joy of community is worth highlighting. Whether it's a group of neighbors, a book club, or an online community, being part of something larger than yourself brings belonging. Humans are wired for connection, and shared experiences, even small ones, make life richer. There's joy in surprise. A letter in the mail, an unexpected compliment, or a sudden rainbow after rain. Surprises break the routine of life in the best way. They remind us that not everything can be predicted, and that's part of the magic. Nature continues to offer endless joys. Watching butterflies, hearing frogs at night, or simply gazing at the endless horizon of the sea. These experiences remind us of the world's vastness and our place within it. The natural world holds countless simple pleasures for anyone willing to look. The joy of learning someone's story is powerful. Asking a friend about their childhood, listening to an elder's wisdom, or hearing how someone overcame challenges opens doors of empathy. Every person carries a universe inside them, and getting a glimpse of it is an honor. There's joy in creating something with your hands. Knitting, gardening, painting, building, whatever form it takes, creation is a human instinct. The finished product doesn't need to be perfect. The joy lives in the process. One of my favorite joys is laughter at unexpected times. When something catches you off guard and you laugh until you cry, it feels healing. These are the moments that stick with us for years, the ones we retell because they remind us how alive we felt. The joy of music shared with others is unforgettable. Singing along in a car with friends, dancing together at a wedding, or even humming quietly while someone else joins in. Music creates collective joy that bonds people instantly. There's also joy in learning to let go. Whether it's releasing a grudge, cleaning out old belongings, or forgiving yourself for past mistakes, letting go creates space for new joy. The lightness you feel afterward is proof that simplicity often comes from subtraction, not addition. The joy of movement in nature is special. Hiking a trail, swimming in a lake, or cycling through the countryside combines physical vitality with natural beauty. It's not about performance, it's about feeling alive in the landscape. There's joy in little traditions. Friday night pizza, Sunday morning walks, or yearly family rituals bring comfort and continuity. These repeated patterns anchor us in time, reminding us of where we come from and who we share life with. The joy of quiet mornings is something I treasure. Before emails, before obligations, just a cup of tea and the sound of the world waking up. Mornings are like blank canvases, full of possibility, and starting them slowly adds calm to the entire day. There's joy in reflection. Sitting with your thoughts at the end of the day, remembering small wins and simple pleasures, builds gratitude. Reflection doesn't require hours. It can be 5 minutes before bed, acknowledging the good before sleep. Finally, there's the joy of presence. Being here, now. Not rushing ahead, not stuck in yesterday, but alive in this exact breath. Presence is where all other joys live. The more present we are, the more joy we can notice.